Good evening and welcome to NTD UK News. I'm Stuart Lees. Tonight's top story. Britain and France continue to row over fishing rights. The Environment Secretary warns two can play at that game if France doesn't reel in its threats. In a rare move, the Foreign Secretary summons the French ambassador for an explanation. Also tonight, Facebook will rebrand as Meta. Mark Zuckerberg says it's about bringing different technologies together, but experts question the timing.
And the challenge is that, doing it now makes people feel like he's trying to create a distraction.
And fifth-tier Welsh football club Wrexham welcomes its new Hollywood owners. Rob McElhenney and Ryan Reynolds share their dreams of climbing to the Premier League. Environment Secretary George Eustice warns if France goes ahead with threats amid a fishing row, Britain could respond in turn. And in a rare move showing Britain's concern, the French ambassador to London has been summoned. NTD's Noel Woodrow has the story.
The fishing row between Britain and France continues to escalate. On Thursday, France's Europe Minister Clément Beaune said that the only language Britain understands is the language of force. It comes after France seized a British scallop dredger the day before. Environment Secretary George Eustice called the statement completely inflammatory. He did not rule out blocking French vessels in retaliation. Eustice told BBC Breakfast, two can play at that game. The Environment Secretary said Prime Minister Boris Johnson will talk to French President Emmanuel Macron at the margins of the G20 summit in Rome. Meanwhile, Foreign Secretary Liz Truss has summoned the French ambassador to the UK, Catherine Colonna, to explain the disappointing and disproportionate threats made against the UK and Channel Islands. It's rare to summon an allied nation's envoy. British scallop dredger Cornelis Gert-Jan was seized by France on Wednesday. French officials say the boat doesn't have a licence to fish in French territorial waters, which its owner denies. Meanwhile, the detained captain has been told to face a court hearing in August next year. Neil Woodrow, NTD News.
Facebook is rebranding as Meta. Its CEO Mark Zuckerberg says it's about bringing different apps and technologies together. But some experts have doubts about the timing, as it could be perceived as trying to distract attention away from criticism of the company's social media platform. We've got more from NTD's Costa Jimenez.
Our company is now Meta.
Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg announces his company will rebrand as Meta. He says it's to underscore his ambitions to refocus on building the metaverse.
Our mission remains the same. It's still about bringing people together. From now on, we're going to be metaverse first, not Facebook first.
Metaverse refers to the idea of a shared virtual environment that can be accessed by people using different devices.
Building our social media apps will always be an important focus for us. But right now, our brand is so tightly linked to one product that it can't possibly represent everything that we're doing today, let alone in the future. Over time, I hope that we are seen as a metaverse company.
But one expert is unsure if this is the best time to rebrand the owner of the world's largest social network.
Timing is everything when launching a new brand. And this timing is really difficult because for most audiences, it will appear that he's become a little bit of the Wizard of Oz. If you remember that movie, pay no attention to the person behind the curtain. And the challenge is that, doing it now makes people feel like he's trying to create a distraction.
Facebook says the change will bring together its different technologies under one new brand. The tech giant, which reports nearly 3 billion monthly users, has faced increasing scrutiny in recent years from global lawmakers and regulators.
What makes this awkward is the fact that it's being launched from Facebook, which is under siege, and the Facebook brand and the Mark Zuckerberg brand are one.
Professor of Technology Ethics Kirsten Martin says with the problems surrounding the policing of content on Facebook, people may be unsure about the company's expansion into the virtual world.
it's odd to think that they could be then responsible for the content moderation in a virtual world, or as Zuckerberg is calling it, the metaverse.
The company unveiled a new sign at its California headquarters on Thursday, replacing its thumbs-up logo with a blue infinity shape. Some in the area also expressed skepticism. One person said she deactivated her Facebook account a year and a half ago.
If I were to return, I would really just have to take a look and see what this new rebrand is, what it does, who's using it, and make my decision from there.
I mean, all the same people work there, and I imagine especially so at the top of the ladder, so it seems like the same company to me.
I didn't even hear about any kind of rebrand about Facebook. I thought Facebook was just going to be Facebook forever.
The social media app will continue to be called Facebook. McElhenney, NTD News.
Vivienne, the French Bulldog, owned by late Sir David Amess, the MP who was stabbed to death while meeting constituents earlier this month, was named Westminster Dog of the Year on Thursday. NTD's John Conway reports.
And in memory of Sir David Amess.
In tribute to the late Sir David Amess, the winner of Westminster Dog of the Year was awarded to his dog on Thursday, opposite the Houses of Parliament.
There's somebody who would have been here who's not, and that is, of course, David Amess, and his beloved French Bulldog, Vivienne, who was undoubtedly going to be part of this great event.
MPs Andrew Rossendale and Mark Francois collected the trophy with Vivienne, who wore a City of Southend neckerchief, the constituency Amess represented.
David was a great animal lover. He was renowned for it. So I think Andrew and I like to think that he's up in heaven now, smiling down at the fact that Vivienne has won.
Andrew Rossendale further highlighted Amess's advocacy for animal welfare and parliamentarians' support to continue his efforts.
Mark and I and many other colleagues will continue David's work to ensure that we are the country in the world that has the highest standards of animal welfare, and that's always what David fought for, and it should be his legacy.
Boris Johnson tweeted his congratulations to Vivienne on Thursday and said Sir David would have been very proud. Joanna Conway, NTD News.
Welsh football club Wrexham finally welcomes its new owners from the other side of the Atlantic. Hollywood stars Rob McElhenney and Reynolds have big plans for the club. They dream of taking it to the Premier League. NTD's Eddie Aiken brings us this report.
The new owners of Welsh football club Wrexham are determined to turn the non-league team into a global force. Hollywood stars, co-owners Rob McElhenney and Reynolds bought the club in February from the supporters, who had owned the fifth-tier league outfit.
Our goal is to get us back in the league and continue our way upwards, and that's going to take some time. So, yeah, I don't think I'm reticent to get into the pie in the sky type of stuff, but the perfect ending's promotion.
Reynolds is a star of superhero comedy movie Deadpool, and McElhenney is the creator of TV series It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. They assured Wrexham's fans that they were 110% committed to the team and in it for the long haul.
And the fact that the club has been around for 160 years and will be around for another 160 years, and that's really important to us, so that we want to win right now while we're alive, and we also want to set up the structure for the club to continue to win long after we're dead.
McElhenney said they were aware their lofty global ambitions had produced some mockery, but he was reassured by his conversations with supporters that his dream is worth pursuing. The Wrexham co-owners watched their team for the first time at Maidenhead United on Tuesday, but there was no happy ending on that occasion as the Red Dragons lost 3-2.
I loved every second of it, but it certainly had its moments of agony. Normally I'm only heckled in my home, so this was sort of new for me and sort of weirdly thrilling.
The co-owners recognise success won't come quickly, but are excited to grow the club together with the community. Eddie Aitken, NTD News.
Now, lorries fueled by green hydrogen may soon be transporting goods around the UK. BP and Daimler Truck announced plans this week to create a hydrogen-powered freight transport network. BP will work on supplying up to 25 refueling stations across the nation by 2030, while Daimler expects to deliver hydrogen-powered lorries to its British customers by 2025. Hydrogen-fueled vehicles convert compressed hydrogen into electricity through fuel cells. Experts say this is particularly suitable for heavy goods vehicles, as a hydrogen tank and fuel cells take less space than a lorry battery. BP says it will use renewable electricity to produce and supply the hydrogen for the refueling sites. Daimler Truck, owned by Germany's Daimler, is one of the world's largest commercial vehicle makers. Well, in the lead up to the UN Climate Summit, there's a lot of talk about hydrogen and its potential in the energy industry. But how does it actually work, and what are the challenges? We've got more from NTD's Jane Well.
The government has ambitious plans for hydrogen to become part of its low-carbon energy strategy. So how does hydrogen production work? Over the coming weeks, you'll probably be hearing the terms blue hydrogen and green hydrogen the most. Geoscientist Claire Bond explains.
So blue hydrogen, you're creating the hydrogen from fossil fuels, but then you're taking the CO2 that you generate and you're storing it underground in the subsurface. And then green hydrogen, which I guess is most people are most excited about, is when we generate the hydrogen from something called electrolysis. And so if we can generate the electricity, which we would run through the water to separate the hydrogen and the oxygen molecules, if we can generate that by renewable sources like wind or solar, then effectively we're creating a green power source from hydrogen.
Because when I think of hydrogen, I think of the gas.
Yeah. So it'd be compressed. So yeah, and I think that is one of the challenges. One of the challenges is storage and compression, because to get it to, it's got quite low density. So to get enough of it, you need quite high volumes of it. So then you need to compress it, and then you need to use electricity or another source of energy to compress it.
This isn't usually open to the public, but we've got special permission to see how a hydrogen fueling station works. There are 3 main stages that generate hydrogen fuel on site at this station in southwest London. After the water is purified in this device, the hydrogen is separated from the water using electrolysis.
The anode collects the oxygen and sends the oxygen out through the back pipes into the vent, which just goes up to the atmosphere. On the hydrogen side, the cathode side, it collects it in stainless tubes, and then it sends it on to the next step of the process in the electrolyzer system.
The separated hydrogen is then stored in a large tank.
So the buffer tank stores the hydrogen at 20 bar. So within this tank, it equates to around about probably 24 kilograms of hydrogen.
He says it produces enough usable hydrogen fuel to power 3 to 4 cars. The final stage involves compressing the hydrogen, and it's cooled to minus 43 degrees.
While it's compressing, the gas is chilled down to minus 43 degrees, and what that enables us to do is to get more gas inside the storage and ultimately more gas inside the cars.
One challenge, though, is that all these processes are very costly and the stations aren't profitable.
So the main cost at the minute, as everybody's kind of feeling across the UK, is the utilities cost, so the electric prices are one of the biggest factors, and also the equipment as well, and the technology that's required to develop and deploy these systems is extremely expensive.
The government has been subsidising some costs. The stations are connected to the main electric grid, while their plant in Sheffield gets some power generated from a wind turbine. Storage-wise, special containers are needed so the gas doesn't explode.
Explosives are not my area of expertise, but yeah, I mean, but the thing is we already use it in buses and things, so I think that engineering to make kind of safe, I'm going to say storage containers, but storage containers, so all of that engineering is being developed so that it actually, we can use it safely. So I think you can read about them, but they kind of bullet test them and they do all these things, and so they store them in safe. So it does need to be stored in safe containers because it can ignite.
This is ITM's busiest station. The cars here have water coming out of the back of them. For now, it's a rare sight. Jane Worrell, NTD News, London.
Still to come, residents of the East European country of Moldova are worried they will be left without gas as winter approaches. The Prime Minister says the country could not afford the tripling of prices by Russia, which the EU calls a weaponization of the gas supply. That and more after the break. Moldova may be left without Russian gas before the onset of winter. Russia's Gazprom threatened it will stop deliveries to the ex-Soviet republic if it does not sign a new contract by the 1st of December. The Moldovan Prime Minister says the country could not afford the prices Russia is now offering, which have gone up threefold. This report comes from NTD's Eddie Aiken.
The European Union's top diplomat said on Thursday that Moscow was using natural gas to bully the Eastern European nation of Moldova.
Price increases, not in Europe, but in the whole world, is not, in general terms, consequences of a weaponization of the gas supplies. In the case of Moldova, yes, it is.
Moldova's gas contract with Russia's Gazprom expired at the end of September. Its Prime Minister said Gazprom was not offering the government the traditional annual rollover of a previous 30-year contract, but instead a threefold price increase. She said the country could not afford the prices Russia was now offering.
The price increase for Moldova is just extraordinarily stark. You know, it has increased threefold and set to increase fourfold if we buy everything on the spot market. The country cannot afford this politically, economically, or socially.
The Kremlin on Wednesday denied that Gazprom, which is majority state-owned, was using gas to try to extract political concessions. Moldova is governed by a pro-Western government of President Maia Sandu, who defeated the former Moscow-backed president in an election last November. Gazprom is now threatening Moldova to stop deliveries if the country does not sign a new contract on the 1st of December. Moldova has declared a state of emergency. Many Moldovans are now worried that they will be left without gas before the onset of winter.
We don't know yet how we're going to get along. Now we have an electric heater working, and we can turn it on to keep warm. But in winter, when the temperature is much lower, this will not be possible. It is impossible to keep warm with one single heater.
The EU this week said it would give Moldova £50 million by the end of the year to deal with the crisis. Eddie Aitken, NTD News.
Poland's Justice Minister said on Thursday the European Union member will not pay any of the £800,000 daily fines the EU's top court imposed on Warsaw this week. The fine is for ignoring its injunctions on changes to the judiciary.
Just like every citizen, the Polish state cannot bow to lawlessness.
On Wednesday, the court fined Poland to prevent what it called serious and irreparable harm to the EU's legal order. The fine is for undermining judicial independence by having a politically influenced body for disciplining judges. Poland insists the EU court has no authority over its justice system and has been ignoring its rulings. The EU is warning it can suspend payment of pandemic recovery funds to Poland unless the disciplinary body is abolished. Thousands of migrants in recent weeks have tried to enter Poland from Belarus and continue their way to Germany to claim asylum. Germany has expanded its police force patrolling the border and is considering reintroducing controls. NTD's Costa Jimenez has the story.
German federal police officers run daily patrols on the bridge connecting the Polish town of Słubice with Frankfurt an der Oder in Germany. Authorities have put an extra 800 police officers on the Polish border to deal with the uptick in the number of people illegally entering the country in recent weeks.
The situation remains dynamic and also tense and demanding for our colleagues who check and search here every day.
He says the absolute majority comes from Belarus. Thousands of people in recent weeks from the Middle East, Africa and Afghanistan have tried to enter Poland from Belarus and continue through to Germany. Many EU states accuse Minsk of sending illegal migrants across the border into the EU to put pressure on the bloc. At the Germany border in Frankfurt, most want to be caught and claim asylum.
It is actually the case that they do not try to hide at all, that they enter by just crossing the city bridge in Frankfurt by foot, and are also eager to be checked and recognized by police officers, so that they can then present their request for asylum here.
On some days, officers pick up several hundred people a day. Germany has registered over 6,000 migrants so far. The Interior Minister says Germany is considering reintroducing controls at the border. Kostemenes, NTD News.
Now, Ukrainian police have released videos that show raids on doctors' surgeries, publicizing a clampdown on a flourishing black market in forged vaccine and COVID-19 certificates. This comes after the government made shots compulsory for some state employees and put restrictions on venues for unvaccinated citizens. Olivia Chan reports.
This is the moment Ukrainian police raided a doctor's surgery that is allegedly involved in a flourishing black market in forged vaccine and COVID-19 test certificates. This operation is just one of hundreds of criminal investigations publicized by the authorities. In another case, law enforcement caught a man hawking fake vaccine certifications on social media. He would arrange for a doctor to enter people's names as vaccinated on the national database, according to a statement by the Prosecutor General's office. The government has made shots compulsory for some state employees, and unvaccinated citizens face restrictions in certain venues. These new rules provided more incentive for those who do not want vaccines to get fake ones. Only around 7 million out of 41 million Ukrainians are fully inoculated against COVID-19. Surveys also suggest around half of the adults do not want to be vaccinated. Ukraine's Deputy Interior Minister Yevgeny said on Tuesday the country is drowning in forged vaccination certificates. He added that those found guilty would not escape punishment and encouraged people to get vaccinated.
Delegations began to arrive in Rome this morning, ready for the G20 summit this weekend. The Italian Interior Ministry said over 5,000 police officers and 500 soldiers will be deployed in the Italian capital to ensure security during the meeting. The world's 20 richest countries will commit to tackling climate change, paving the way for more detailed action at COP26 next week. After the summit, the delegates will head to Glasgow for the United Nations gathering of almost 200 countries. And in other news, there may soon be a way to beat traffic from the airport. A German company is developing an electrical air taxi that can fly passengers from the airport directly into the city centre, taking only a fraction of the time and the emissions of doing the journey by road. A prototype went on display in Rome on Wednesday. NTD's Joy Felix brings us this story.
The flying taxi Velocity looks like a tiny helicopter. It gives up to 2 passengers an admission-free way to beat traffic. Velocity runs on 18 motors, powered by 9 rechargeable batteries. German startup Velocicopter says it's 4 times quieter than a helicopter. Rome's airport operator hopes it will be operational in 3 years, taking passengers to the city in 15 minutes, a third of the time it takes by road.
€150 may be a reasonable price, which should be sustainable in order to cover costs for this service, and also to be certainly a great value for money, because of course the connection will be very swift.
Airports in several Italian cities announced the creation of a company to build and manage infrastructure for flying taxis, known as vertiports. They will offer a new way for travellers to hop between cities quickly and conveniently. Joy Felix, NTD News.
And finally, it's a sweet dream come true. In Paris, an annual chocolate show brings together chocolatiers, pastry chefs, cocoa experts, and thousands of visitors. NTD's France correspondent David Amess brings us this report.
Chocolate squares, chocolate fountains, chocolate animals, even a chocolate Napoleon. There might be enough chocolate here to feed Paris for days.
This edition of the Salon du Chocolat trade show is the first that is being held since the pandemic hit. Thousands of visitors are expected to come here and peruse the stands of the 280 exhibitors.
The fair features chefs' recipes, live performances, cooking workshops, and original creations of chocolate masters from across France and other countries.
My business is 90 years old. My great-grandparents created a business, and we've kept our recipe. I present to you the candied orange peel. We take the orange peel, we put it in sugar using a very slow cooking process, and we coat it with a 61% cocoa chocolate.
Some exhibitors showcase traditional recipes with chocolate that are being passed on in their families. And there are also creators that start from scratch. Hello, Clara.
Bonjour. Hello. I started my business 8 months ago during lockdown, and everything happened so fast for me. I created these chocolates in original shapes and flavours. Some are made with matcha tea, rose and pistachio. These are original recipes.
Chocolate mastery involves different skills, according to the chefs we spoke with. There are roasters who only work with the cocoa bean and chocolatiers who mix chocolate with other ingredients. Then there are bakers who create chocolate-based pastries. Finally, there are chocolate sculptures, like this award-winning sculpture from the Ivory Coast.
Full-time, 1 month full-time working on an elephant.
Very full-time working on it, because elephant is a very symbolic of our country. After roasting the beans, we're crushing the beans, we have a paste, a smooth paste, and we try to make this block of chocolate, of dark chocolate without sugar, and we're making the process.
David Vives, NTD News.
That's the news for today. Have a good evening.